The first time I heard of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is when I was in a subway and I saw the poster for the film. And I thought, wow, there is a sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I was a little kid at this point, and I hadn't seen the first one at that point, but I very much wanted to. And then I also want to see the sequel to a film that I never saw before. It would be a number of years before I would get a chance to see either the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre and its sequel. A couple of years passed, and I finally get my chance to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It was the first film I saw in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. I had saw that it was coming on Showtime, and I think it might have been one of the first movies I watched on Showtime, and it came on too late for me to watch it while it was actually airing. So I went ahead and I recorded it, and I remember just being so excited to finally see it. So when I got up that morning, the first thing I did was play Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And I remember before they played the film, there was this disclaimer saying this film was so basically viewer discretion advised, it was mature content and all that other stuff. And I thought, that was strange. I've never watched a movie on cable and it gave that type of disclaimer. So I guess I must be in for really something that was messed up. Later on, I would realize the reason why I had that because Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 was not rated. It was released unrated, and at that time, cable channels would go ahead and films that were, on the objectionable side, they would go ahead and, well, sometimes they would put that disclaimer if they were unrated. So I go into watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 all hyped up, and by the time it ended, I was completely satisfied. I had never seen a horror film. I had never seen any film quite like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I had seen a horror film before that was as graphic as I found out it was to be. Hellraiser 2 I had seen a few years earlier, and that film messed me up in terms of gore. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 messed me up as well. Just the imagery that, I just never seen before, everything with the beginning of the film when you have the scene with the two guys in the car trying to go ahead and evade, Leatherface and his chainsaw. They're on the bridge, the two cars, going, and, when Leatherface takes that chainsaw and just cuts into the head of one of the guys, and then how, the top of his forehead, it's split, and then it slowly begins to separate from the rest of his head. I'm I'm in store for a really gory treat. You got the grisly stuff that happens to LG in the movie. You have chainsaws going through bellies. You have a whole big slop of flesh and guts and innards just shooting out of walls. There is definitely a number of grotesque moments throughout this movie. The thing that disturbed me the most when I first watched this movie is its tone. I just found the tone to be so overbearingly bleak. The satiric and black comedic tone that is prevalent all throughout the movie. I just wasn't on that wavelength. The horrors that was happening on screen, the heaviness, the bleakness of just the horror of everything that was happening in the movie. That overpowered, anything else in that movie. And I wouldn't really I guess I don't want to say detect, but really notice just how much the film does in a lot of ways work like a comedy, or at least a black comedy, until, years later, when I noticed that, this film is definitely a horror film, no question, first and foremost, but it is also very much a satire. It is definitely also black comedy. I wouldn't go as far to say that it's a full-blown comedy, as I've heard some people say. I think maybe Toby Hooper might have said that this film he regards it as a black comedy. I mean, he even said that the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre that he saw, or at least he intended to be a comedy, that one I'm not I don't know if he was being serious with that one. There is nothing comedic at all about the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That film is about as bleak as they come, it's as heavy as they come, and it's as serious as they come. But the second one, yeah. You at times you can't take it seriously. It's just so absurd. But I love the balance of the movie. Like, there's moments where, you know, you could laugh at it, you know, and there's moments where you are horrified by it, like, genuinely. Like, this, like, it's very hard to pull off comedy or absurdity and, I guess, monstrosities and just grotesqueries and horror and gore, like just to maintain both seriousness and I don't want to go as far as say silliness, but definitely satire, you know, in the film and have it work on every level. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre does that balance very, very well. But it's because of those satiric elements to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 that at the time of its release, it pretty much was not well received by most fans and most critics. Like and I can understand where they were coming from. They were probably expecting another, you know, relentless, heavy, horrific movie like the first one is. And when it got this, I don't want to say all over the place, but it's definitely like the first film is very pure. It's very simple in terms of like its plot and what it does. You know, this film is like the narrative is so much bigger. There are more, I don't know if there's more characters in general, but there's more characters doing things, more locations, even though at a certain point, the majority of it takes place at the theme park and beneath the theme park. It just does a whole lot of things, and it's just like, I don't know. If you were expecting Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 to be anything like the original film, you might walk away very disappointed because this film and its original are two completely different movies and what they're doing and what they're going for. The only thing that they share that's the same is the Sawyer family and their murderous and cannibalistic exploits. Speaking of the Sawyer family, though, like this particular iteration of the Sawyer family is my favorite. Well, I mean, it's the same iteration. Well, not exactly the first one, because this one it does have, you know, Leatherface and the cook from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But there's a new addition to the family in this film, and that is Chop Top, who is like one of my favorite on-screen like bad guys of all time. Played brilliantly well by Bill Moseley. This is the first film that I remember. Well, actually, no. The first time I ever saw Bill Moseley was inside the Blob, but I didn't know it was him inside that moment that he has in the sewers. But yeah, this first time I took notice of him and became a big fan after this, and he is just amazing in this film. Like, I was legitimately terrified of this guy when I first watched this movie. But at the same time, like, I was also very much intrigued by him too, found him very fascinating, just everything about him, like the whole thing with his plate, the hanger that he carries, the way how he speaks, his fashion, like Chop Top is just a memorable character for all times, particularly in the world of horror. Other great performances is Jim Saito as the cook, Drayton Sawyer. He's just, again, he's amazing. He is also amazing in this movie. Bill Johnson, he does a great job of taking over for Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface in the original film. He does a great job of filling the shoes of what Gunnar did, but he also adds his own thing to the character, his own imprint. Caroline Williams is great as Stretch. Like, she is definitely one of the most underrated horror heroes in horror. Like, I just love her in this movie, love her character, love her drive, and just her pursuit for just making things right. Dennis Hopper. They're always reliable. Dennis Hopper, he definitely makes quite the impact as Lefty in this movie. Everyone in this film like shines. Like, I love the cast of characters in this film. I'd probably say of all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the cast of characters in Part 2 are my favorite cast of characters in the whole entire saga. Special makeup effects legend Tom Savini again does a masterful job with the effects and the makeup. This is up there with Day of the Dead with some of his best stuff. It's just brilliantly and bloodily amazing. The screenplay by L.M. Kit Carson and Toby Hooper is supremely sharp, and so is the score by Jerry Lambert and Toby Hooper. And of course, the direction by Tobe Hooper is outstanding. The fact that he was able to go ahead and do something completely different for what he did with the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and to me makes something that is almost just as good as that masterpiece, is nothing short of spectacular. And now, after all these years later, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 has been received a lot better than its initial release. There's definitely a lot of fans for this film now, and there's definitely still fans out there like, I don't know about that second one. But a lot of people now, they've come to, realize or just come to a point like, yeah, I accept it for what it is, and for what it is, it is really good. Or at least more than worth watching. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 may not be the incredibly raw and relentless ride that the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre is, but that doesn't mean that this sequel is not an unforgettable ride in its own right.